Hi. Today we're going to continue on with the next chapter, How to Get Stubbed by a Big Toe. When there are two crime bosses in one area, then there are one too many. So reasons Stubbs. He had been the original crime boss and had only recently heard about a new intruder named the Big Toe. Accompanied by one of his men, Stubbs decided to pay a call on the interloper. Finding the location of the Big Toe's hideout had presented no difficulty. With a finger and plenty of pies, he was able to piece the puzzle together. Arriving at the abandoned shoe factory, Stubbs and his man went up the long flight of stairs to the office of the Big Toe. The meeting began politely, with Stubbs complimenting BT on his taste in furnishings. BT offered Stubbs a drink and a cigar. After careful study of the man before him, Stubbs decided on a direct approach. I just came down to discuss a few things with you. You're new, so I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Stubbs, and I've been the only boss in this town. Big Toe slowly took the cigar from his lips, blew a cloud of smoke in Stubbs' direction, and drawled, until now. The quiet menace and disrespect he'd been shown let Stubbs know he was wasting his time. He'd been willing to split the town down the middle. Now it was going to be a war. The war was a waste of time and resources. He would have preferred more cooperation and/or consolidation, but he saw that with this man it was all or nothing. Well, very well then, he would get nothing. Standing up, he departed without another word. Big Toe leaned back and put his feet on his desk, content that he had scared Stubbs into submission. He considered himself on top of the heap and would throw Stubbs a bone every now and then to keep him out of the way. In the meantime, he went to his other office and placed a call. Stubbs was a man of intelligence and resources. He planned everything carefully. He used the intelligence of his subordinates to good advantage. He was cautious and he was thorough. His one main failing, though, was in the lack of adaptability and the realization that his plan wasn't working. He called in his best man, Jerry, to determine an opening salvo. It was to be a firebomb at the abandoned shoe factory, and Jerry would do the job personally. He spent a while getting the bomb together. He needed something strong enough to dent the fortress of a building, enough to cause a breach at least. A long, slow fuse and a proper casing was soon acquired, and he had the bomb ready by the following evening. Placing the bomb into a bowling case, he took the bus to the factory. The building was built to last and was made of stone 6 to 8 inches thick. The windows were high and large, but protected by wire cages. The front entrance was an iron double door, as if the builders had thought they were building a prison instead of a factory. Walking around, he was looking for some way to breach this formidable building. He found what he was looking for at the left rear corner. A sunken area had loosened some of the stones. While still solid, he could place the bomb beneath the wall and capture wall and floor together. The combination should allow for the rear corner to come crashing down. Opening his bag, he placed the bomb beneath the wall and covered it behind stones. He drew the fuse along the lower edge of the building. It was long and slow enough that he should have enough time to depart before the explosion. He was sitting against the wall waiting for the next bus heading the other way. When it was about to arrive, he would light the fuse, get on the bus, and be well away before the explosion. Everything was timed to the second. All would have gone according to plan except for a beat cop's appearance up the alley. Jerry had spent the interim period near here checking for this very thing and had found no cops on patrol. Cursing softly, he arose as the patrolman arrived. The beat cop stopped and looked at Jerry speculatively. Jerry was leaning against the wall and not doing anything suspicious, but the cop wasn't satisfied. Looking down where Jerry had been lounging, he saw a cord. What's all this then? He skirted around the suspect, who was attempting to block him without appearing to do so. The cord was thick, black, and had a slight sparkle to it. Hardly a shoelace or some other piece of cast-off trash. It was laid close to the building in a purposeful way. Jerry was casually walking away, ready to make a run for it, when the policeman whipped out a pair of cuffs and swung one end at Jerry's arm. Catching him with it, he jerked him back and swung him around, cuffing him the other wrist. He sat him down and blew his whistle. Another patrolman came running. While one watched Jerry, the other followed the fuse, found the bomb, and placed it into the bag that it had been brought in. He took the man and evidence into custody. The following day, the bomb was removed from the evidence storage closet and was placed beside Jerry's residence. It was hidden well enough that if you were looking for it, by the time you found it, you would go up with the building. Having been built to take out a fortress, taking out that small building was not a problem. Jerry was called anonymously and warned that he had 5 minutes to vacate and leave town. Stuffing anything he needed into a satchel, he left with 30 seconds to spare. He had hardly gotten out the door when the explosion happened, throwing him to the ground. Unharmed but shaken, he determined his next move. Recognizing his own explosive, he went to the nearest phone booth, called Stubs, quit. Big Toe was elated, one down, but Stubs was still operating. Big Toe had thought out an ingenious ploy to draw the other members of Stubs' gang out. He began to do something no mob boss would or should ever do. He went to a park regularly. He did so openly and usually sat in a secluded area that was almost hidden. Word reached Stubs of this habit, confirmed his suspicion that Big Toe was not born to the underworld, but a person who had lived on the edge of it. Someone trying their best to break into an exclusive club. Stubs got 3 of his loafers together and sent them to where the word was that Big Toe would be. In the police commissioner's office, he contacted the chief of police. Chief, I've heard a rumor that Stubs is going to rob a local wealthy businessman. Apparently this guy, and I haven't heard the name yet, spends his lunch breaks in the park. Same place at the same time every day, which makes them an easy mark. Could you send Soleman the flats there? I know that they're heading out to the conference this evening, but I'd consider it a favor if you would contact them on this last call. Chief called back that Soleman and Flats were happy to be able to do a favor for the commissioner, and seeing that it was approaching noon, had set off for that area of the park. Stubbs' men were looking for Big Toe. They saw him sitting on the park bench easily. Their assignment was simple: beat some sense into Big Toe so that he either capitulated or got out of town. Soleman and Flats were approaching from the street side and saw both the aggressors and their victim. The criminals were approaching quietly to leap onto their unsuspecting victim. That person appeared to be asleep, their hat pulled low over their face and their posture relaxed. Putting on every ounce of speed possible, they arrived just at the moment the men were about to spring. Soleman and Flats interceded, placing themselves between the men and their slumbering victim. The 3 bruisers had not been instructed what to do if these 2 showed up, but having a grudge against them for their loss of face, were ready to change targets. Soleman and Flats understood that men of this ilk would adapt and overcome once they had lost a battle. They expected a more difficult fight, and they received it. Closing in, the 2 men of justice began to pummel the behemoths. These men had changed tactics and worked from the waist, their bent arms swinging forward with powerful strikes that worked well in enclosed, tight fighting. Soleman and Flats tried judo throws to no avail. The men were now adept at rotating and landing on their feet, balanced and striking back at the moment they landed. In this encounter, suddenly Soleman and Flats were matched. Their agility availed them naught. Flats looked over and indicated a surgical approach using swift pressure point jabs. Their towering enemies were gloating now. Having prepared to encounter Soleman and Flats, they felt that they would have their revenge for their humiliating defeat. Soleman landed a strike, hitting hard into a pressure point in the arm. Another landed in the upper leg, sending his man reeling. Flats followed Soleman's lead, striking 2 leg points, sending his man to his knees. A swift uppercut, and the man went down and out. Soleman was following his attack up with a barrage of strikes high and low that sent the man limping off. The final man was the largest of the 3. He had held back to see what new attack these 2 warriors would bring. Being large and muscular does not mean the man was unintelligent. He saw the way the wind was blowing and began to turn arms and legs to block their pressure point attacks. fouled with backhanded blows that sent Soleman reeling. Glass leapt on the man's back and applied pressure to the lobe of the man's ear, causing him to pause. Then he boxed both ears, causing dizziness. Sweeping to the front, he delivered a final blow to the solar plexus and put his man down. Blatz rushed in to the intended victim, who, to all appearances, was still sleeping soundly. He removed the hat. As he shook the shoulders, the body slumped to the side. It was a dummy, dressed in an expensive suit. Soleman was checking on the man Blatz had hit in the solar plexus. He was having trouble breathing, and Soleman had dipped his handkerchief in water, placing it around the man's neck to keep him from going into shock. Blatz returned and began chest massages, stopping as soon as the man could breathe easily. Bruiser that he was, the man could feel and express gratitude and respect. Saluting the two opponents, he slung his fallen comrade across his shoulder and departed. Later in the chief's office, they described the scene that had played out. The fact that the victim turned out to be a dummy made Soleman feel it might have been another test of Stubs to see if his brawlers were capable of defeating them with new skills. He called to the commissioner, who apologized for sending them out to harm's way on a non-existent emergency. Later in his office, the big toe called Stubs and commiserated with him on the loss of 3 of his 6 bruisers. Somehow he had heard that they had quit. Stubs was ready to admit defeat. Big Toe humorously offered a small section of the county for Stubs to try and begin again. Much to his surprise, the offer was accepted with thanks. Stubs left to take up residence in his new section, ready to rebuild and get back what had once been his domain. All right, so that's it. We're getting towards the end. So look forward to finishing these off and getting on to our next book, which is going to be the Sheriff in a Small Town 2. So we're keep going. As long as I've got books that I'm writing, we'll keep reading them. So that's it for today. I look forward to seeing you in our next reading. Be good and be good to yourself. Bye.